Scene 1. What is Avatar: Fire and Ash? Avatar: Fire and Ash is the third installment in James Cameron's Avatar franchise, scheduled for theatrical release on December 19, 2025. The film continues the story of Jake Sully and Neytiri on Pandora, but shifts toward exploring darker emotional territory and introduces new Na'vi clans with different cultural practices. According to Cameron, the film will be more harrowing than its predecessors and explores darker psychological places with its characters. Scene 2. The behind-the-scenes documentation. The production of Fire and Ash has been documented through multiple official releases. In May 2025, Disney and 21st Century Studios released 4 behind-the-scenes photographs showing key moments from the filming process. These images are significant because they offer the first public look at the actual production environment, which has been kept largely secretive since filming began. The photographs primarily show cast members wearing motion capture suits in various stages of performance. Additionally, a 2-part documentary titled Fire and Water Making the Avatar Films premiered on Disney Plus on November 7, 2025. While the documentary focuses heavily on the Way of Water, it includes exclusive footage from the Fire and Ash production. The documentary filmmakers traveled to multiple locations, including Manhattan Beach, San Pedro, Shasta Lake in California, the Channel Islands, the Bahamas, Hawaii, and New Zealand to follow the cast and crew throughout the production process. Scene 3. Understanding Performance Capture Technology. Performance capture, also called motion capture or mocap, is the core filmmaking technique used in all Avatar films. Actors wear specialized suits covered in small, reflective markers, typically white dots placed at key joint locations on the body. These markers are tracked by an array of infrared cameras positioned around the performance space. The cameras record the 3-dimensional position of each marker many times per second, creating a detailed digital record of the actor's movements. What makes Avatar's approach different from standard motion capture is the simultaneous capture of facial expressions. Actors wear head-mounted rigs with small cameras pointed at their faces. These cameras record every facial movement, including subtle micro-expressions around the eyes and mouth. This facial data is then combined with the body movement data to create a complete digital performance that preserves the actor's unique mannerisms and emotional delivery. The technology allows actors to perform scenes in a relatively empty space while the digital environment of Pandora is added later. However, Cameron's approach includes physical props, partial sets, and sometimes other actors in practical costumes to give performers something tangible to interact with, which helps ground their performances in reality. Scene 4. Cameron directing Zoe Saldana. The first released image shows director James Cameron working directly with Zoe Saldana during a performance capture session. Saldana has played Neytiri since the original 2009 Avatar film, making her one of the most experienced performers in this specific technology. Cameron is visible standing close to Saldana on the capture stage, demonstrating his preference for being physically present during performances rather than directing remotely from a video monitor. This hands-on approach is characteristic of Cameron's directing style throughout the Avatar series. He often acts out movements or emotional beats for actors, providing immediate physical reference rather than just verbal direction. The performance capture environment allows this because there's no camera in the traditional sense blocking the director's access to the actors. The capture cameras are positioned around the perimeter of the space, leaving the center open for actors and directors to work together freely. Saldana's role in Fire and Ash reportedly expands beyond previous films, with her character facing new emotional challenges related to protecting her family while confronting threats from both human forces and hostile Na'vi clans. Scene 5. Working with young cast members. The second image captures Cameron alongside younger cast members Trinity Bliss, Britton Dalton, Jack Champion, and Sigourney Weaver. Trinity Bliss plays Tuktiri, the youngest Sully child. Britton Dalton plays Loak, the second son who struggles with living in his older brother's shadow. Jack Champion plays Spider, a human teenager who was born on Pandora and raised among the Na'vi but cannot breathe the atmosphere without a mask. The presence of these young actors highlights a major challenge in the Avatar sequels: aging. The films are being shot back-to-back over many years, but the characters age in story time as well. The actors are literally growing up during production, and Cameron has had to adjust shooting schedules to account for physical changes in the young performers. Some scenes for later films were shot earlier to capture the actors at specific ages, while other scenes have been reshot or adjusted as the actors matured. Sigourney Weaver appears in this image despite playing Kiri, a teenage Na'vi character. Weaver is in her 70s, but performance capture technology completely translates her acting into a younger digital form. The technology captures her performance, the way she moves, her facial expressions, her emotional delivery, and applies it to a teenage Na'vi body. This allows Weaver's decades of acting experience to inform a young character without any visual disconnect. She has stated in interviews that playing a teenager required her to study how young people move and carry themselves.
Believing that I could be 14 and accepting me as a 14-year-old. I am obnoxious and I am immature, so I'm sure that was a help.
Adjusting her physical performance accordingly while maintaining emotional authenticity. Scene 6. Stephen Lang's return as Quaritch. The third behind-the-scenes image features Cameron with Stephen Lang, who returns as Colonel Miles Quaritch. Lang's presence in Fire and Ash continues one of the franchise's most significant narrative developments. In the original 2009 Avatar film, Quaritch was the primary antagonist and was killed during the final battle when Neytiri shot him with 2 arrows. His death appeared final and conclusive. However, in Avatar: The Way of Water, Quaritch returned as a recombinant. A recombinant is a Na'vi avatar body that has been implanted with the memories, personality, and consciousness of a deceased human. Before the events of the first film, the Resources Development Administration, the corporation mining Pandora, had created a program to back up the memories and neural patterns of key personnel. When Quaritch died, his backup data was retrieved and implanted into a Na'vi avatar body, effectively bringing him back to life in a new form. This creates a complex character situation. Quaritch now inhabits a Na'vi body, the same species he despised and fought against as a human. He possesses all his human memories and motivations, including his hatred of Jake Sully, but must navigate Pandora in a body designed for the environment. The recombinant Quaritch also discovers he has a son, Spider, who was left behind on Pandora as an infant. This father-son relationship becomes a key emotional thread, as Spider was raised by the Na'vi and identifies more with their culture than with humanity. Lang's continued involvement in Fire and Ash indicates that the recombinant storyline remains central to the plot. Cameron has described the relationship between Quaritch and Spider as one of the emotional cores of the third film, exploring themes of identity, belonging, and whether someone defined by hatred can change when their fundamental nature is altered. Scene 7. Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldaña's partnership. The fourth image shows Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldaña with Cameron during a performance capture session. Worthington plays Jake Sully, and his character's journey forms the spine of the entire franchise. Jake began as a paralyzed human marine who was given the opportunity to operate a Na'vi avatar body. Over the course of the first film, he fell in love with Neytiri, adopted Na'vi culture, and ultimately betrayed humanity to defend Pandora. At the end of the first film, Jake permanently transferred his consciousness into his avatar body, abandoning his human form entirely. The partnership between Worthington and Saldaña has now spanned over 15 years of production across multiple films. This extended working relationship is unusual in modern filmmaking and creates a depth of on-screen chemistry that develops naturally over time. The actors have repeatedly performed as these characters through multiple life stages, as young warriors, as new parents, as protectors fleeing danger, and now as parents facing threats to their maturing children. In Fire and Ash, Jake and Neytiri's relationship reportedly faces new strains as they disagree about how to protect their family. Jake's tactical military thinking sometimes conflicts with Neytiri's spiritual connection to Awa, the guiding force of Pandora's ecosystem. These differences become more pronounced when they encounter the Ash Clan, a group of Na'vi with fundamentally different beliefs and practices than the forest Na'vi that Neytiri comes from. Cameron's presence in this image again emphasizes his hands-on directing approach. Rather than relying solely on assistant directors or performance coaches, Cameron personally guides the actors through emotional beats and physical choreography during capture sessions. Scene 8, the two-part documentary, Fire and Water. Making the Avatar films is a two-part documentary that premiered on Disney Plus on November 7, 2025. The documentary provides an extensive look at the production process for both The Way of Water and Fire and Ash, though it focuses more heavily on The Way of Water since that film had completed production when the documentary was being made. The documentary filmmakers were given unusual access to Cameron's production across multiple years and locations. They traveled to Manhattan Beach Studios in California, where much of the performance capture work takes place in specialized stages. They documented filming at San Pedro, California, where large water tank facilities allowed the production to shoot underwater performance capture sequences. The crew also traveled to Shasta Lake in Northern California, the Channel Islands off the coast of Southern California, the Bahamas, Hawaii, and New Zealand, capturing both principal photography and location scouting. This geographic spread reflects the logistical complexity of Avatar productions. While much of the film is created digitally, Cameron insists on shooting reference footage in real natural environments. He photographs real bioluminescent organisms, real underwater ecosystems, real volcanic formations, and real forest canopies. This reference material is then used by the visual effects teams to ensure that Pandora's digital environments feel grounded in natural reality rather than purely invented. The documentary includes the first public footage from Fire and Ash production, showing actors in performance capture for scenes that will appear in the finished film. It also features interviews with Cameron discussing his creative vision for the darker tone of the third installment. Cameron states that the greatest advancement in Fire and Ash won't be visual effects technology, which has already reached a high level, but rather deeper character development and more emotionally complex storytelling. Scene 9. Cameron's creative philosophy for Fire and Ash. James Cameron has been explicit in interviews that Avatar, Fire and Ash will explore darker emotional and thematic territory than the previous films.
You love the character of young John Connor, Eddie Furlong, right? And you see the Terminator melting. You're with him.
He describes it as more harrowing and states that the creative team is not afraid to take characters to dark psychological places. This represents a tonal shift from The Way of Water, which, despite containing violence and loss, maintained a sense of wonder and spiritual harmony. The Ash in the title refers to the Ash Clan, a group of Na'vi who live near volcanic regions of Pandora. Unlike the Forest Na'vi, Omaticaya clan, or the Reef Na'vi, Metkayina clan, seen in previous films, the Ash clan has developed a culture shaped by a harsh, fire-dominated environment. Early descriptions suggest they may have a more aggressive worldview and different spiritual beliefs than other Na'vi groups. This introduces moral complexity. Not all Na'vi are unified in their values, and Jake and Neytiri cannot assume that other Na'vi will automatically be allies. Cameron has stated that his approach to character depth in Fire and Ash prioritizes emotional authenticity over visual spectacle. While the film will certainly contain the elaborate action sequences and immersive world-building expected from the franchise, he emphasizes that the story's core revolves around family bonds under extreme pressure, moral ambiguity and conflict, and characters forced to question their assumptions about good and evil. This philosophy reflects Cameron's broader approach to the Avatar sequels. Rather than simply repeating the formula of the first film, humans as clear villains, Na'vi as clear heroes, he is constructing a more layered narrative where conflict arises from cultural differences, competing survival needs, and the psychological damage caused by prolonged war. Scene 10. Production timeline and secrecy. Avatar. Fire and Ash has been in production for an extended period, with filming occurring simultaneously alongside Avatar 4 and partial work on Avatar 5. Cameron shot scenes for multiple sequels during the same production blocks, an approach that maximizes efficiency but creates enormous logistical challenges. Actors sometimes performed scenes for Fire and Ash in the morning and scenes for Avatar 4 in the afternoon, requiring them to track which film's storyline they were currently inhabiting. This production approach explains why behind-the-scenes material has been released sparingly. With multiple films in production simultaneously, the studio has maintained strict secrecy to avoid spoiling plot developments across the entire planned 5-film arc. The May 2025 release of 4 photographs and the November 2025 documentary are calculated to build anticipation for the December 2025 release without exposing significant story details. The secrecy extends to the visual effects work as well. Weta FX, the visual effects company handling Avatar's digital creation, works under strict non-disclosure protocols. Artists working on the films sign agreements preventing them from discussing specific plot points, character designs, or environmental details. Even test footage and work-in-progress renders are kept on secure servers with limited access. Cameron's reputation for technical innovation adds another layer to the secrecy. Each Avatar film has introduced new filmmaking techniques. The first pioneered modern performance capture, the second achieved unprecedented underwater performance capture. Industry observers speculate about what technical advancement Fire and Ash might introduce, but Cameron has indicated that the biggest leap will be in storytelling depth rather than pure technology. If this one hooked you, the next video will blow your mind. Go watch it next.